What is digitalisation?
So ultimately, digitalisation is about connecting disparate systems, creating strong, trusted partnerships across the value chain and having visibility up and down that value chain. So as an example, you look at world-class manufacturing like Toyota or Rolls-Royce, who learned everything they know about quality manufacturing from Toyota, actually. When they went there, they created a book on digitalisation and efficiency, and it's 10,000 pages thick. Toyota didn't have a book because it was embedded in their culture. And so, they've come at it a very different angle because they've been doing it longer. What's interesting is that those guys know where every single component is in the supply chain when it will arrive on the production line and what the performance of that product is. And there's no doubts about it. And of course, they are doing world-class manufacturing with very high consequences should it go wrong. You look to Grenfell, we're in the same business in some respects. And so that visibility along the supply chain has to be connected. So that's going to be the golden thread that we're all the way through from manufacturing specification all the way to end user.
What does digitalisation mean for the construction industry?
So I think the way we are at the moment, there's a number of businesses that don't like to share data because they kind of act locally and they are independent and they can have a bit of a parochial view. But I don't think that's going to prevail in the long term because you're going to see retailers who take enormous amounts of data and commercialize it, and they'll use it to enhance the customer experience and therefore get more margin out of the customers. So, one of the biggest mistakes I see merchants doing is not acknowledging that ultimately they're going to become data businesses. They've got an enormous amount of data, so they need to learn how to commercialize it. But the other thing that they do is oftentimes they'll digitalize a paper system without re-engineering it or redesigning it. And what that means is you hard bake legacy mistakes into a digital system, and therefore they're there forever. So it misses a huge opportunity for efficiency. And to quote David Haldane, my favorite quote that he said, he says, "You cannot digitalize spaghetti." And of course, most of these legacy systems are like a bowl of spaghetti. They need completely unraveling, taking apart and putting back together again, which is an incredibly painful journey, but it's only less painful than going out of business. And of course, that is the other side of this coin. To not digitalize is going to be irrelevancy in the market in 5 or 10 years, and possibly sooner than that.
How long does it take to digitalise and what are the steps?
How long does it take to digitalize? It's forever. It is for the end of eternity or you're in business. So it's never going to stop. To think that it stops, it's a one-hit wonder, is naivety. So that's the thing that you've got to wrap your head around, is that this is a continual level investment. And so when I come back to the steps of this, first thing is leadership. So leadership need to acknowledge that, they need to educate themselves, they need to understand that if they don't know what the solutions are, they need to get people in the business who do. Second one is culture. So the culture needs to change at a fundamental level. And that's probably the hardest part of digitalisation. The technology piece is a lot easier than changing the culture. You've got to have realistic levels of investment, especially in technology and training. You've got to create partnerships with suppliers, service providers, other merchants to support each other. And as I said earlier, you've got to see data as an asset which can be commercialized. And then, of course, use data analysts and scientists to understand what materials are going to be needed, where, by who, and at what price. And so you start to do predictive analytics on all this sort of stuff. I'm seeing there's going to be a big entry of artificial intelligence and machine learning coming to our industry, because they're going to be able to make these predictions that humans can't possibly handle. And I think ultimately, as a business owner or a CEO of a company or the senior management team, you've got to acknowledge that your opinion does not really count. The only opinion that counts is that of the customers. And if you don't listen to the customers' opinions because it's too difficult, there's going to be somebody out there in the market who will, and then you'll get disrupted. And we've seen this in every industry that's been around since day dot. The companies that do not listen to customer opinion ultimately go out of business. And so I think that's the thing, is put that customer in the middle of all of your thinking, and then build the leadership and the culture and the people and the technology around that.